In week 2 of the preseason, the Cleveland Browns will face off against the Minnesota Vikings at home. We've got all the thoughts, and we're going to talk about them. Your latest Locked On Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, LGB, and the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jeff Lloyd, and I appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. The numbers keep going up. Don't miss out. Join the everyday crowd. Subscribe to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel to not miss a bit of action. The show is available and always free wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKDOWNNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Week 2, Saturday, 4:25, Cleveland Browns Stadium. The Browns will tee it up against the Minnesota Vikings in their second preseason game. Will conclude the preseason the following Saturday in Seattle against the Seahawks. We're going to talk a little bit about the offense. We're going to talk a little about the defense, some news of the day. Browns obviously idle today as they get ready for the game tomorrow. We'll start on the offensive side of the ball. Now, look, we understand that there are guys who are not here yet, not ready to participate yet. I get that. But as we sit here 23 days away from the opener, September 8th against the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm not saying these guys won't be back, but that does not mean that there should not be pressure on this offensive line the way it is currently constructed to perform better. They're pros. They're getting paid. Now, what happened last week against Green Bay with this offensive line is they were doing such a poor job that they held back the offense pretty significantly. They were not able to help the offense get a run game going. They were basically, strangling the passing game because the Browns were not able to get anything vertical going down the field. Again, no, James Hudson is not your starting left tackle. Yes, DeJuan Jones, does he look as dominant as he did last summer? Maybe not. But to be fair, it was really hard to live up to how well DeJuan Jones was playing last summer. But that does not mean that these guys are not expected to go out there and perform. And whether it's James Hudson, maybe he doesn't even start. Maybe Hakeem Adeniji starts. Who knows? Maybe they go really wild and give Jermaine Urfidi some reps at the left tackle. These guys need to perform better. They need to do their job better. They cannot hold back an offense. These guys are supposed to be out there getting the reps they need. Granted, it's not starters, but there's certainly guys who will play tomorrow that will be certain role players for this offense for the Cleveland Browns in 2024. Need marked improvement from this offensive line, and it had issues on Wednesday in the joint practice. Not greatly better Thursday in the joint practice, but at least better than Wednesday, and certainly better than they showed against the Green Bay Packers. We'll get to see our, probably Nick Harris start is my assumption. When you tell me starters aren't playing, that probably means, Nick Harris is probably starting at center. So you're figuring your offensive line is going to consist most likely of DeJuan Jones. I'm not sure if they consider DeJuan a starter or not. That would be interesting whether or not, So does DeJuan Jones start, or is it Urfidi? Maybe, perhaps. You figure Zach Zinter will start at right guard. You figure Nick Harris will start at center. You figure your left guard will be Jimmy Cohen. And you figure left tackle will be James Hudson or Hakeem Adeniji, one of those guys. You need marked improvement. This unit needs to play a lot better than they did last week. They cannot hold back the offense. The offense has work they need to get in. We know Dorian Thompson-Robinson will be the starting quarterback tomorrow. I felt he should have played last week over Tyler Huntley. Tyler Huntley will be closing out the game, so whenever Tyler Huntley takes the field tomorrow, he will be the one basically going wire to wire and taking the game home. You're not going to see James tomorrow. You're certainly not going to see Deshaun Watson tomorrow. Winston Watson. Wow. It's the first time that happened. Probably going to happen again at some point. But for Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I would like to see him play with a little bit better caliber talent than he did last week. Is he going to get to play with Cedric Tillman? Hopefully, Jabari Thrash. Again, starters. So no Coop, no Judy, probably no Elijah Moore. Cedric Tillman, Thrash, but then some of those guys, the Mike Woodses of the world, but some of those other wide receivers have had a nice camp to this point. Probably not going to give them a chance in heck of making this final roster in Cleveland, but these guys have performed when have had their number called. Now, running wise, again, you say starters aren't playing. Well, right now, what do you consider Jerome Ford? Is Jerome Ford your starting running back right now or not? I don't know. So I don't know what that means. Does that imply that, what running backs are and aren't playing? Dante Foreman took contact in the joint practices, had a nice run on Thursday. So, does that mean Jerome Ford doesn't play this week because he played last week? Which means maybe you get Dante Foreman this week. You get Pierre Strong this week. You're not going to play John Kelly. He's not here. Is there going to be a bigger role for undrafted free agent Aiden Robbins this week as you try to see what you've got in, the young guy from Brigham Young University? Are they going to try to run the ball a little bit more than they did last week? Granted, the game kind of dictated it and maybe took it out of their hands. But, you want to see DTR go out there, and my assumption is you should probably get the first half. You want to see a complete balanced effort from this offense. I want to see the best of DTR as far as his abilities with his legs. I am a big fan of Dorian Thompson-Robinson's passing arm. I think DTR overall is a little bit thicker this year than he was last year at about this time. That's the nuances of the NFL. It's learning the game. It's learning what's best for you, learning what's best for your body. So for DTR, certainly, you're expecting a jump here. And look, he was the bright spot on the offense last week, him and Jamari Thrash. So you hope that continues here. Tight end wise, we know David Njoku's not going to play. But is anybody else going to give us anything? I'm not really, thrilled with that room. Everybody knows, I'm not thrilled with the way that room is currently constructed. I'd like to get a longer look at Trayton Welch to see, if there's a possibility he makes this team. Michelle Payton, is the shot there for him? Because, this is something that the Browns really, really need to look at, in my opinion. And there's a team like the Indianapolis Colts who have 4 NFL caliber tight ends that they're not going to be able to keep all 4 of them. So you really got to start looking at this here now and seeing if you have enough at the tight end position. I understand it's David Njoku, and it's such a gap between David and any other tight end on the roster that maybe they feel they can just not find somebody else that can do things similarly to what David Njoku can do. I get that. I truly understand that. But, it still doesn't mean you can't make the room better, the positional group overall better than it currently is. So, that's definitely things I'm watching for tomorrow. Maybe Jerome gets this week off because he played last week. Maybe that means Dante Foreman will be in there with the other running backs that played the week before. All things to watch and monitor here. Offense, versus the Vikings defense, 4:25 start in Cleveland Browns Stadium on Saturday. We're going to continue it up here. We're going to look at the defensive side of the ball here for the Browns as they face the Vikings on Saturday. Everybody, stick around. We've got MLB playoff races in full swing. I love getting out to the park a couple of times a year. As these games pick up with importance, I'm probably going to try to sneak in a couple times more. And how am I going to get there? Game Time. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. They've got killer last-minute deals, all in prices and views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. They got last-minute deals. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. They save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats with a zone deal. You say, I want to sit in this area. They're going to find you the best seat they can for the best possible price. You get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Your latest Locked On Browns continues. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd. I appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. Do not miss any of the action. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. and become an everydayer. Show's always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcasts. We are breaking down pregame style. Cleveland Browns hosting the Minnesota Vikings. Spirited, definitely well-battled practices Wednesday and Thursday with the Vikings and joint practices. Vikings will be in the stadium tomorrow at 4:25 before they return back to Minnesota. Certainly been a rough week for the Minnesota Vikings. Hasn't been a glamour week for the Browns either. But the Minnesota Vikings, basically finding out that their future, J.J. McCarthy, it's something that's basically going to have to wait 1 calendar year for. J.J. McCarthy officially placed on injured reserve today, ending his 2024 rookie season. Tough break for the kid. A lot of people really, really excited and wanted to see him. But as I spoke about the other day, this might not be the worst thing for Minnesota as a franchise, because if J.J. McCarthy is worth it, and this year doesn't go very well, which it looks like it very well go that way, you can either add a stud or you can trade that first-round pick you have that could be in the top 5 and replenish a lot of draft assets, get that team younger, get a lot more talent on that roster to go with what you think is your future quarterback in J.J. McCarthy. Browns defense versus the Minnesota Vikings offense. My guess, and we haven't heard much from Minnesota, but if Sam Darnold's your guy, Sam Darnold better get some work in. I don't know if that means Justin Jefferson. We know Jordan Addison's not going to play, so certainly things there. But the Browns defense kind of got pushed around last week. They got pushed around by the Green Bay Packers. Browns defense ran around the field wide vertically. They could not stop the run. Packers basically ran at will at them. The Packers' 4th running back all of a sudden now made a case for his maybe making the roster because of how well he played against the Cleveland Browns last week, and the Browns had no answer for them. They need to get better. And look, again, this is not necessarily the top talent for the Cleveland Browns, but it does not mean at any given time that these guys are going to be called upon to step in for said top talent. They may have to play, so therefore they're going to need to do their jobs. Devin Bush, Mahmoud Diabate, are these guys going to be able to string together a great second week in a row? Both looked sharp against the Packers. Can Devin Bush keep that going? I'm not sure we're going to have Bookie Watson this week, who had a nice debut against the Packers in a very, very limited time. So can he, if he goes tomorrow, get in on the action and continue that momentum he has going? Pass rush. They didn't get much pass rush. And look, if it's not going to be Zadarius Smith and Myles Garrett, which we're pretty sure it's not, Okoronkwo, certainly capable of having the ability to dominate in a preseason game. Alex Wright, certainly the ability to dominate in a preseason game. Isaiah McGuire, back in practice, looks, it was only a sick thing, so it wasn't like he was injured. So let's get Isaiah McGuire out there and get some reps for, last year's 4th-round pick, and let's get him into the fold. The development of Isaiah McGuire can only make this defense better. If the Browns can have 5 legit pass rushers and keep running guys in and off the field, it just gives them an absolute, much better chance at taking advantage of teams. Whether you think the Browns are going to have a lead, you just want to run pass rusher after pass rusher on them on every single down. We know Mike Hall will not play. Certainly the injury related. He's got the stinger injury. Certainly, the off-field legal mess that is currently surrounding Mike Hall. Mike will not be playing tomorrow. Certainly an opportunity for rookie Juwan Briggs. Certainly an opportunity for second-year defensive tackle Siaki Ika, and I keep saying this name. For Ika, you've got to find a way to distinguish yourself, and if it's not going to be tomorrow, Siaki Ika could be out of here before a second regular season on a rookie contract. The Browns cannot afford to wait much longer. They have brought in other defensive tackles, so if Siaki Ika cannot crack this lineup or make a strong enough case for himself, the Cleveland Browns most likely will have to cut ties with their 3rd-round pick from 2024. Juwan Briggs, it was going to be tough as the 7th-round pick here in 2024 to make this defensive tackle room, which already had Tomlinson, which already had Jefferson, which already had Harris, which already had Hurst, Hall, Ika. Briggs was here as maybe the 7th guy. Certainly, the situation with Mike Hall is cloudy. Certainly, the situation with Siaki Ika is cloudy. Juwan Briggs, go out there, make some plays, get an opportunity for yourself. That door is not closed for Juwan Briggs. He's not necessarily playing for somebody else to take him off of the waiver wire. The opportunity is there. So go seize it. Juwan Briggs certainly has the capability and the talent, and certainly has the college resume to do that. So Juwan Briggs, certainly a guy you definitely want to keep your eyes on tomorrow. As far as the cornerbacks, Cam Mitchell, who did not play week 1 against Green Bay Packers, should play this week. And the way I'm kind of seeing this, they say starters. Martin Emerson, in my opinion, starter, not playing. Had already had a great 2 days against Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson gave him all he could. Martin Emerson gave him all he could. That's some good work probably for the rest of the summer for Martin Emerson. So you figure as you're starting corners, you're probably going to get Cameron Mitchell on the outside. You're probably going to get Khalifa Lassie on the outside. The rookie Miles Harden, who has been outstanding to this point for a 7th-round pick. Miles Harden has been very, very solid, the rookie out of South Dakota. You figure he will get the opportunity and he will start at the nickel position. He had an interception in practice this week. He had showed to be a willing tackler, a very, very involved player against the Green Bay Packers. You want this momentum to continue for Miles Harden. Look, Andrew Berry was a defensive back. Kevin Stefanski was a defensive back. If there's some things that we think these guys know and know well, it is defensive back play. Safety position, again, this is where it's going to get interesting, and it's going to get interesting like it did last week against Green Bay Packers, because they were missing certainly a ton of players last week. The Browns were. And you ended up playing Delpit. You ended up playing McLeod a little bit. I don't know who plays. But I had spoke yesterday, and we'll get to this in segment 3, but you're already down a man in that secondary. You had some guys, play at the safety position, so I don't know what to expect. The Anthony Bell is still not back in the fold. Ronnie Hickman probably will play a lot. But these are guys really battling out here now. The top 3 safeties for the Cleveland Browns are set in stone. There is no doubt about that. You're not going to get a starter's job. Heck, you're not even going for the 3rd safety job. You are trying to fight your butt off to make this team as a special teams contributor. And maybe some point, somewhere along the line, you may get an opportunity to take some reps with the defense. Remember last year, Juan Thornhill missed a ton of time. Grant Delpit missed the final 5-6 weeks of the season. And then, of course, McLeod missed the last, I guess it was 8 weeks, and then add on the playoff time. So the Browns on defense need to have some guys step up. Again, just because, you are 5th, 6th, your time is quick for you to all of a sudden be a part of the defense. So these guys can go from role players to starters very quickly. We certainly saw it last year. So how these guys get their work in tomorrow, hopefully get in good work, get even more confidence so they can go back the next week and bust their butts and, be the best that they can be. It's very, very quick. There's not, you keep 6 corners, you keep 4 or 5 safeties, but it is a snap of the fingers before all of a sudden you are on the field for meaningful reps, and these defensive backs need to be ready. Defensive linebackers need to do a better job against the run and certainly get some pass rush. We got some final thoughts, some news from the day as we continue your Locked On Browns pregame show. Appreciate everybody for sticking around. When you are hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place, or you're not even looking at all. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats, they might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. This is Jeff Lloyd. I appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. Become an everydayer. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Don't miss any of the action. The show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. I want to maybe send out some condolences. I apparently put the Kavorka on safety Brady Breeze. somewhere along the line yesterday, I guess in yesterday's practice, Brady Breeze suffered an injury so bad to the point that the Cleveland Browns waived him today with an injury designation. Tough break. I really thought Brady Breeze was playing well enough that D'Anthony Bell was probably on the hot seat. So, you hate to see it for a guy who was out there doing everything he could. 7 tackles and a sack last week against the Green Bay Packers. We certainly saw him perform well. Had a big stick yesterday in run defense in the joint practices. But unfortunately, somewhere along the lines, Brady Breeze is injured and unfortunately has been released with an injury designation from the Browns. Also waived linebacker Brandon Boyer-Randall. So 2 guys off the roster. Browns did bring in another safety, Tyler Coyle, 6'1", 210, former Purdue Boilermaker. He began his NFL career in 2021 as a UDFA. He does have 3 games logged in his time in the NFL. Also, your long snapper again this week. So maybe he only comes in for games, I guess. But the local kid, Rex Sunahara, will be long snapping again Saturday for the Browns. Those are your Cleveland Browns news and moves of the day. I think the Browns really could use a good showing here tomorrow. In the wake of the Monday night and the early Tuesday morning Mike Hall news, and this. Whatever is going on, and look, this is why things really get tough with training camp is when we can't see much of the 11 on 11s and the team periods and all that stuff within joint practices. You get people out there, and we all go through it, right? All of us, we're going through social media, or even me. Look, I got anybody that's in that building or at those practices, media wise, I have information. I'm reaching out to everybody all day long. What'd you think of this? Da, 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 da. And it's not just a social media thing. It's not. It's just not a Twitter thing, where you see 4 tweets, Watson with a bad ball, Watson with a great ball, Watson with a great ball, wide receiver dropped it. Watson bad ball, wide receiver couldn't. And they're talking about the same play. The same play. And, I don't know what happened, with the fan today having on one of the Vikings reporters, and anything Ken Carman, you're never going to hear negative out of me. Ken is a beast. I love Ken. Ken Carman is fantastic. But you had a Vikings beat guy go on there, and he's basically telling everybody that he's not playing well, and that he doesn't look good, and he's not getting it done. And you just sit here, you scratch your damn head. You don't know what any of it means. You try to make some sense of it. And, then you got, for God's sakes, you got guys that have bashed the Browns their entire time here while covering it, saying completely opposite thing. Deshaun looks really good this camp. So, I mean, who knows what to make of any of it? And look, everybody is trying to get information. Everybody wants to know what's going on. I agree. We all do. Everybody wants to know what's going on. But, we're kind of hamstrung on the information we get. The footage is not readily available. There is no all 22 of joint practices that we can all go sit down and break down and talk about and have a chuckle about. So here's what we know. Either Deshaun Watson's having one of the worst training camps in the history of the NFL. Deshaun Watson had one of the greatest training camps in the history of the NFL. But here's what it matters. Whatever you think or don't think, I don't care. I care about September 8th. How many times, the everyday crowd, how many times have you heard me say this? September 8th, September 8th, September 8th, the Dallas Cowboys. I don't care about anything else but how the Cleveland Browns look September 8th at 4:25 against the Dallas Cowboys. That is what I care about. Do I want them to look good now? Yeah. Well, I ain't getting that in practices. First game of the preseason, didn't look good. We all know it didn't look good. They look good tomorrow? That's great. They look good next Saturday against Seattle? Even more great. But it comes down to September 8th against the Dallas stinking Cowboys. That is what I care about. Browns need to keep it going, need to, get it better. The offensive line, I don't care who's in, I don't care who's out. That group that played last week against the Green Bay Packers, playing again this week, they need to perform better. Bottom line, no excuses. It ain't about who's here, it ain't about who's not here. You need to improve. They are capable of being better than they were last week. That should be the expectation. Defense, Can't give up the run like you did last week. You need to generate some pass rush. And let's see some of these kids continue to piece together some good ball. Because guys who were just names on a 90-man roster, all of a sudden are starting to look like they can be guys that can be contributors at some point for the Browns. I am Jeff Lloyd. We will be we'll go right after the game tomorrow with all the thoughts, hopefully, on what will be a Cleveland Browns victory of the Minnesota Vikings. So make sure you check all that out. I appreciate you all for making the show your first listen every single day. If you are not an everydayer, you should become one. They're a bunch of filthy animals, but they're my filthy animals. Become a filthy animal. Become an everydayer. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on the LOB. Let's go Browns.